Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining this week's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin streaming show. I am Amber Miller, your host. Before we get to our guest, please just a friendly reminder, this is a pre-recorded show, but if you have any questions or comments for myself, for AARP Wisconsin, or for our guest, you could put them below on our facebook.com page or our YouTube page, and we will make sure to get to them within the next few days. So just also as a friendly reminder, please visit our website, which is aarp.org/WI for any upcoming virtual or in-person events. You might actually see us a little bit more out now in your community. We were on a little bit of a hiatus just because of COVID, but we would love to see you if any upcoming events are in person. And you can also find information about advocacy, outreach, and all the amazing things that we are doing at AARP Wisconsin. Please also remember the AARP Friendly Voice initiative that started in the beginning of COVID. And what you could do is put a request in for yourself or for a loved one to receive a phone call from one of our AARP trained volunteers, because as we know, sometimes it's just really nice to hear a friendly voice on the other end. There is no cost. It's open to all ages, and you do not need to be an AARP member. So you can find additional information below at aarpcommunityconnections.org or by calling 1-888-281-0145. And we're always looking for amazing volunteers to join the AARP Wisconsin volunteer family. So if you are interested in outreach, presentations, advocacy, fraud, and scams, and the list can go on, but if you're interested in joining our volunteer team, we would love to have you. There's both in-person and virtual opportunities. You can find additional information at the website below, which is aarp.org/I want to. So I want to, the number 2, volunteer. You can find additional information along with the AARP volunteer application. And as soon as you fill that out, one of our staff members will get back to you to chat further. So, as we know, June is Pride Month, and AARP stands with the LGBTQ members and non-members, allies, and partner organizations year-round. AARP's unwavering commitment to the LGBTQ community audience reflects our core belief in the dignity, worth, and potential of every individual. So we're super excited to have Beau Ballinger with us. We've actually, this is, I think, our third or fourth time being on the show, but Beau is an advisor for the AARP Office of Community Engagement. Beau, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Amber, thank you so much for having me, and happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month. And I always say it shouldn't be a month, it should be the whole year, because you're going to talk more about it, but June always just brings so much joy to my life. I'm in the city of Milwaukee. Our Pride Fest was about 2 weekends ago, and it was our first Pride Fest probably in the last 2 years because of COVID, but it's just really nice to, have you on today to kind of highlight all the goodness that AARP does for Pride Month and our LGBTQ community. So Beau, my first question is, people may not know that AARP has nearly 1.2 million members who identify as LGBTQ plus. And so, of course, that makes us one of the largest membership organizations representing the LGBTQ plus individuals in the world, which I love. And this is probably new information for a lot of folks who are watching this. Can you tell us a little bit more about how AARP engages this audience?
Yes, I would love to. And even though I'm not from Wisconsin, I live in Colorado. I love Milwaukee for being such a great festival city. I know in addition to Pride Fest, there's all sorts of, Summerfest, and I've been to the state fair there. So had some good deep fried food at one point. So,
You're always welcome. You're always welcome back.
Thank you. But yeah, I think it's maybe surprising to a lot of folks to know that we are one of the largest membership organizations representing LGBTQ plus individuals. We do have around 1 million of our 38 million members who identify as LGBTQ. And we know that our members come from all walks of life, and so it's kind of an interesting little trivia piece about our organization that a lot of folks don't know. But you had mentioned, Amber, sort of our commitment to the
Mhm.
LGBTQ plus community, and it really stems from our founder, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, who said, what we do for all. So that means in our policy work, whether it's at the local or the state or the national levels, we're showing up as a fierce defender. We're fighting for the rights of LGBTQ plus workers, advocating for Social Security survivor benefits, and even speaking out on housing discrimination. But we also like to have some fun. So each year, ARP participates in hundreds of events around the country that celebrate LGBTQ adults and the community, and that includes Pride Fests, like you said, with Milwaukee Pride was a couple weeks ago, but also all sorts of events like movie screenings and concerts and caregiving workshops, and a lot of that is still being done virtually because of COVID still kind of hanging around with us. So a lot of that can be accessed actually no matter where you live on our virtual community center, which is aarp.org/VCC. But we are also getting the chance to do more of that in person this year too,
Mhm.
which is really exciting.
Absolutely. And the VC and the website that producer Courtney just brought up, if you have not went to that website, there's just a tremendous amount of opportunities and workshops, presentations. I definitely invite everybody to check that out. And Beau, so I understand that AARP has partnered with the national nonprofit Story Corps, which love, over the past 4 years to really help tell the stories of the older LGBTQ plus community. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program and share a few of the stories? Because the one that you played last year made me want to cry. So they're always good stories.
Yes, and I'm so grateful that you all invite me back
Yeah.
for the. I think you said that. Yeah, this is I think our third year doing
Yeah.
something like this, and I love any chance I can talk about our relationship with StoryCorps. It really is one of my favorite things to do here at AARP in the 12 years that I've worked here. But for those who don't know, StoryCorps is a national nonprofit organization that records conversations from people from all walks of life and shares them on public radio and online. And their goal is really to build connections between people. And we've been collaborating with them specifically um, within the LGBTQ community for 4 years now to really help amplify a lot of the stories that we have never heard or kind of go untold, and frankly to just honor the lived experiences of older LGBTQ plus adults in particular. I think we all know there's so much power in listening and in storytelling. And so I think we as an organization feel that it's really important to raise the visibility of older LGBTQ adults and their experiences because, at the end of the day, storytelling really helps connect us. It really helps us, show our resiliency, and it also allows us to find our commonalities, and think more about what we have in common than what we don't have in common.
Mhm.
And so last year, we did feature a few of the stories, and I'm so excited to come back this year with some new stories that we have access to. And I think we can just get right into it. So I'll introduce the first couple stories. I'd like to just play two of them back to back because they're kind of in a similar theme. But in our first story, we have two friends. There's Kami Andrea and Tatiana Quiroga. And they are going to talk about Kami's coming out experience, becoming a mother, and her relationship with her families, both biological and chosen. And then we'll hear from Carly Caro and her partner, Ella Huey. And they talk about how they met and fell in love and their decision to foster and adopt children and the challenges and sort of blessings and opportunities they faced along the way. So we'll be back after these videos.
Great. Thank you.
I wanted to start off today by asking you to tell me about your family.
Yes, that word family means something different for me today than it meant a few years ago. So, my family right now is really awesome. It consists of my biological parents who birthed me, my mom and my dad. I have a set of same gender loving female parents who adopted me when I came out to my parents, and our relationship was severed for a period of time. It was right at that time when I needed nurturing.
How did your path cross with them?
I was in a relationship and we had started attending this church, and this was 1998. And we saw this couple, and I thought, I like them. I like their interaction together. You know, older couple, established, mature.
Right. Like look up to them.
Right. That's how it started. And I asked, like, can you mentor us? You know, I'm clear. I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Right.
And so they said, yeah, they took us both in. And for me, it felt in the moment like it was just immediate that our connection started and that we maintained a bond.
I think that's so common in our LGBT community because we have that. And I think that's so instrumental and so amazing that you were able to find this couple to help guide you and kind of figure it all out.
They have been with me in all of my detours and all the choices that I've made in life, both positive and negative.
Right.
They have been there as my support. I was in a relationship for about 13 years. And towards the end of that relationship is when I decided to get pregnant, get inseminated, and to have a baby. The relationship didn't last. We separated when Zavi was, 6 months old or 9 months old, around that time period. And I was already living in Charlotte. And when I told them, you know, well, we're no longer together, they said, okay, we're selling the house, we're moving to Charlotte.
Oh my gosh.
And within 3 months, they'd sold their house and moved to Charlotte and bought a house.
Like, to me, what you're describing and what I'm hearing is like literally the definition of unconditional love.
Exactly. And I'm so grateful to be able to pass that relationship on to Zavi and for her to be able to see and experience that. She's met my biological mom and she calls her Grammy and she calls my father Papa. But then she also understands Ita and Bibi. They're my moms too. Ita was in the room when I delivered, rubbing my stomach and rubbing my head. And so they do have this awesome connection. If you hear Zavi talk about our family, she's like, are those my cousins too? You know, for us, family, and I'm so glad that we live this way, they're not just the people that we are blood connected to. You know, we get to choose our family.
You have to think like the world that you've created for her is just so full of light and love with like just even the energy that you have in the people around her.
I want Zavi to know that she is enough exactly how she is, exactly who she is. There's nothing that needs to change. The way that she is enough to do whatever it is that she was put on this earth to do. She's my blessing.
I grew up on a farm, no running water. We had an outhouse. We had a creek that ran through the pasture, and we'd go swimming in the summer.
When did you know you were a lesbian?
I had been going out with Dave from high school. We had talked about getting married, and he came to the apartment, and he was drinking, and he started talking trash, and so I decked him. He walked out the back door, and Kathy Smith walked in the front door. It was just like a connection that I never felt before.
How old were you then?
I was 20.
So when did you tell your parents?
It was 1973. My mom and I were talking, and she said, well, are you ever going to get married? I said, if I find someone who is as loving and caring as Kathy Smith, I probably would. Oh my gosh. She called the priest. It was like 11:30 at night. He came in, of course, he was wearing his collar, and the only question I asked was, am I going to hell? And that's all I wanted to know. And he said, no, I can't say that. I just knew that this is who I was. I said, well, thank you. And I walked out, and Smith was already in the car, and we took off. What was your first impression of me?
I didn't have any expectations really because it's just somebody who could be a friend, maybe help me move. It's not going to last. And it did. It stuck. I don't know.
I stuck on you.
Yeah. So, what did you think about me having foster kids?
Well, I knew that was a passion of yours. It didn't really occur to me that there would be a problem.
I thought when I got licensed, it's like, yeah, they'll license me, but they'll never give me a kid because they'd never licensed a lesbian foster parent before that they'd know of. And that didn't happen.
Then we got kid after kid after kid. I mean, we had 4 teenage girls there at one point. Yay for us.
That was a little crazy. And then I got a call saying, we got this kid, they want him out of the foster home today. And that was Cody. He was 6 when he came. He was just this little thing. We'd had him for a couple of years. At that point, it's like, why wouldn't we adopt him? We were told there's no way you can do a same-sex adoption. That wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And then the paperwork got stopped at the state level. I had been good enough to care for this kid for the past few years, but I wasn't good enough to keep him. It was frustrating to have to fight that fight.
But it was a good win.
Yeah, it was. And the county was very eager to have us adopt.
Right.
They wanted him to stay with us. And I said, there's no male figure in the home. You know, that is concerning. Nope, they were okay with that.
I was butch enough.
Yeah, you were. I felt like we're going to do this. They're not going to stop me from adopting this kid.
Well, I know how you can be when you set your mind to something.
My mom was working for an attorney, and one day somebody from the ACLU called about some other issue, and my mom, of course, stepped in and said, hey, this is the situation. And they were very eager to take it on. So I mentioned that to the foster care worker, and within 2 days, they signed the paper.
All in all, we've had a great life.
Yeah. You don't always see how you change people's lives, but hopefully I've planted a few seeds that will turn into something good at some point.
Love you.
Love you too. 22 years.
Okay.
Obsessed with the videos. I love the videos. I love the look of it. I love the stories, and so heartfelt and so meaningful. And Beau, the one thing, you know, it's so interesting to hear the two stories and how the definition of family really evolved over time, but both were, you know, biological and chosen. And Beau, I know family caregiving is such a priority for us here at AARP. Does AARP help support the LGBTQ plus family givers?
Yeah. So I love what you said, Amber. But one of the things I love about our work with StoryCorps is that we don't filter these videos. We don't edit them. These are just real people's real experiences. And that first story that we heard with Kami and Tatiana was recorded in North Carolina, and the story we just heard was recorded in North Dakota. So it's a great example of, you know, LGBTQ people are everywhere, and you know, we're not, as someone who's LGBTQ myself, we're not just hiding in the shadows. But I particularly love those stories. My husband and I are both, you know, we're going through the adoption process ourselves, so those hit me pretty strong.
Well, I didn't know that. Congratulations.
It's been a long wait, but we're just waiting along. In the meantime, we've got, you know, Ivy, our pal, back here on the futon. But yeah, to to your question, Amber, we do have some great resources for LGBTQ family caregivers. And we've done a lot of research of older LGBTQ adults. And one of the things that we found is that, they're concerned about having the adequate family and social support as they age, because our families maybe do look a little bit different than what might be considered a traditional family. So they worry about, how they might be treated if they need to go into long-term care or assisted living facility. And a lot of times, folks who've maybe been out and open for many years feel like they need to go back in the closet when they have to, get healthcare services, because they're kind of fearful of how they'll be treated. So one of the resources that we have access to that I think really helps equip people who are becoming family caregivers for friends or loved ones is our LGBTQ Prepare to Care guide. This is a free guide that's on our website. If you go to that link that's there, the arp.org/prepare to care, you can download a version of it. It's got lots of helpful tips. I think there's even a way that you can request a print copy be mailed to you at that site. So check that out if you or someone you know is in need of that resource. And like we were saying, like these stories both kind of talk about, to me, the theme of this unconditional love, and that family can look different, and mean different things to different people, not just in the LGBTQ plus community. There's lots of different blended families out there. And so, I think this gives all of us a chance to really think about, what does family mean to us? And so, those who are watching today, I just encourage you all to just take a few moments to think about that, and kind of, what does your family look like? What does it mean to you? And frankly, if you haven't reached out to your family in a while, give them a call, touch base with them. We know life is short, and it's a good time to just reach out to the people that you love, and let them know you're thinking of them. So
Absolutely. And I think we have one more beautiful video, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken, if
so
you kind of want to lay out the story a little bit for us, Beau.
definitely. So this is another actually kind of family story, but this is a story that features Khalil Edwards and his mom Antoinette. And they sat down with StoryCorps and talked about the importance of mentors, and really how they created a loving home that was a support for Khalil and his friends. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
I chose the name Khalil because I was reading Khalil Gibran. And as you know, I am a hippie, not in recovery. And I was really into reading kind of spiritual things, philosophy, and I was just really moved by his writings. And I'm thinking, I have this amazing person growing inside. So I would read Khalil Gibran to you. And little did I know that he was gay. And it's like, oh, God, that was kind of amazing.
You probably knew way before I did.
Knew what?
My sexual orientation and me being gay, it wasn't anything that I necessarily thought about probably until middle school. But you probably had a sense before that, right?
I did. And I was just waiting for you to know, to have the words. But I remember that one particular night when you were struggling with your identity, and I just hugged you and just loved you, as did your father, and said, we love you. You are a gift. You're not a mistake. And I just said, I thank God for you. And I just held you in my arms.
I remember that. We always have been pretty close, and it was all support and love and acceptance, which everyone doesn't have. The hard part for me was that I was hearing messages from society and the world that it wasn't okay and that you couldn't be gay. And it was really hard for a while.
I just think of the times that I was kind of grateful to have that safe house when you embracing your sexual identity, and you would bring your friends over that were gay. And I don't know which one of your friends had said, do you think your mom know I'm gay? And you said, boy, you reek gay. That was just funny. And then Jean, I always love to tell the story of Jean, who was this probably like 250-pound African-American young man that entered the what? Rosebud?
Rosebud.
And then it's like 12 o'clock. Then it's like, who at the door? And Jean is standing there, this big, massive guy with this, I think it was a red
Yeah, it was red dress.
mini dress. And he said, I won, I'm Rosebud. And your dad and I just hugged him and said, right on, Jean, we're really glad that you won. And that really touches my heart that he could come to our house. And at the same time, it made me sad that he couldn't go to his grandma's, though I knew she loved him, but to have that place to celebrate that. So I think that's some of the fun memories I have about your coming out and kind of getting to be that support for other folks coming out.
Yeah, I think that it means a lot to have that connectedness to say we're all in this together, and so if you're hurting, I'm hurting. Like we all should be able to help each other when we need that type of support.
Especially with the work that you're doing with Black P Flag, it just brings it forward that everyone should have that family, that connection, that you can celebrate who you are and have folks there that just receive you in such a warm way. It just makes me feel really good that you do the work that you do, and I get to be a part of it. So I'm proud, out loud.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I love what a beautiful story of like love and acceptance, which I wish that people would look more at. And love is love, and everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to feel love. And I also thought it was really interesting to see how they both became active as volunteers and activists, which I think is really great. So Beau, what does does AARP support any advocacy issues related to the LGBTQ plus community?
Yes, definitely. And I had the pleasure of getting to meet virtually Khalil and Antoinette and his father, and they're just such an amazing family.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm really proud to let folks know that ARP has been a strong voice in advocating for the rights of older LGBTQ adults. We've issued a couple of letters of support for the Equality Act, which is a federal act designed to provide equal treatment under the law for individuals by prohibiting discrimination based on sexual identity, sexual orientation, gender identity in a lot of areas like employment and housing and education. And that's still working itself through Congress, but our hope is that that will pass. And I think Amber, you had also mentioned that that call for volunteers earlier in the session, and we are a volunteer centric organization. So I would encourage, if anyone out there is looking to volunteer, particularly with ARP Wisconsin, you have a way to submit your names and find those opportunities. And again, I think folks who are listening, you're probably involved in your own volunteer organizations or some form of activism as well. And so I always think it's nice to kind of take a moment to think about that as well and share your own stories related to how you get involved in your communities. And with that, I think we do have one final story if we have time. Okay,
yes.
perfect.
Yes, I apologize. And I love, you could play 1,000 videos and I'd watch each one. But yes, if you want to, Beau, if you want to frame out this next video for us.
Sure. Yeah. So, we've kind of touched on some of the more serious issues, caregiving, and some of the legislative work that we do. But like I said earlier, we also love to have fun. And I particularly love this story that features two spouses, Ann Taylor and Sonia Faria. And they talk about how they met in a same-sex ballroom dancing club and became competitive ballroom dancers.
Wow,
so
great.
Let's take a listen to that.
How did you start ballroom dancing?
And I remember being in my office one day, the moment the email came across, and it just said, there's this fabulous same-sex ballroom dance class, you ought to try it. And I remember thinking, I'm going to that. I'd have to say it was more like a spiritual intuition. Maybe I was attracted by the fact that I could go to a place that felt maybe I'd be with people like me. I sometimes wonder if it had said it was a queer wallpapering club, maybe I'd have felt just as excited.
For me, that would not have done it. I made the transition from being a performance dancer to doing social dance. I discovered how much fun it was to do social dance, to interact with people while you were dancing. But I was always dancing with straight groups. And although I was out, I could never really be fully out because it was a straight environment. For me, walking into the class for the first time was this integration of my dance self and my gay self, and feeling like I could be totally me in the space.
And that was the transformative piece. Through my life, so much uncertainty has evolved around my body image because that revealed to people that I was a lesbian. I'd had my body stared at, made fun of, be regarded as inadequate for men, being accused of dressing like I'm not an appropriate woman. And so it was actually the experience of ballroom dancing that really raised the question of who am I? Because it was such an obvious place where we were really being us, dancing in front of a queer audience in a queer participatory space. But if I look back now, we're still dancing. Why are you still dancing?
I am still dancing because it enables us to do this fabulous thing together. We have created this fabulous community that we are now part of. And it is also part of a political statement. We were putting ourselves out there and saying, yes, we're gay, and yes, we're dancers, and we are here. It doesn't matter if you're straight or you're gay, we're all in it together.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love dancing with you.
I love dancing with you.
Another fabulous story. I love it so much. And of course, it's just a really great story about feeling seen and finding your identity, which sometimes could be hard. But I just love the way that the story, just a very feel good. And I was like, man, they're brave because I don't know how to dance, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. But Beau, what are your reflections on this story? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, you and me both, Amber. No one wants to see me dance, but I agree. I think we're all striving to feel accepted in some way, and so I really love that Anne and Sonia found this community where they could really be themselves and also stay connected to something they were passionate about, which in this case is obviously dancing. But I also love that this showcases older adults who are being active and pursuing their passions and breaking down stereotypes around what it might mean to age. And so I want to make a quick plug for some of the cool back to those offerings that AARP does. You know, we've got some really cool virtual offerings on that virtual community center there on the screen. Everything from healthy cooking classes to dance and fitness classes. So there's lots of categories you can search there. There's a whole health section. If you want to try to find some LGBTQ activities, there's a cultural connection section. And that's a great place to check out and stay involved and active.
And Beau, first of all, it's always great to have you period on here. You could be a guest every week if you would like. I'm extending that offer
Don't tempt
too.
me.
Always just a really great time with you, and I love seeing all those beautiful stories exploring, diversity and experiences of older LGBTQ adults, because I don't know if we hear a lot of those, and if we do, we might only hear them during Pride Month, and we definitely want to make sure that we hear them every single month. So, any final words on how people can connect with AARP or StoryCorps in general?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I mean, we could do this all day. You know me,
Absolutely.
Amber. I could ramble on and on. I know
Me
we're
too.
already over time, but I think the thing that I would say is I hope that folks, whether you identify as LGBTQ plus yourself or if you're an ally, that you learned something today and got to see these beautiful stories. If you want to see more about what AARP does with this community, you can visit us at aarp.org/pride. It's a really great place to learn about experiences of older LGBTQ adults and also connect to some of those resources that we referenced earlier. And if you're interested in hearing even more stories like this, or even recording your own story, because StoryCorps is very big. It's not just these LGBTQ plus stories. They've got all sorts of story collection and tools to help record your story, and it even gets archived in the Library of Congress. So you can visit their website at storycorps.org, and check them out because they're a really great partner and a really great organization. So.
Great. Well, Beau, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you about the adoption because, yep, I don't want to be the last one to know, but I don't have to be the first one to know. But sending you and your husband good vibes, and just to always appreciate what you do in general, but especially for the LGBTQ plus community. So we appreciate you so much for being here today and sharing, you know, all the work that we do, but also those lovely videos. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, Amber, and for letting me join today.
Absolutely. Thank you again. And if you, just as a friendly reminder, this was a pre-recorded show, but we always invite you to leave any questions or comments below, and we'll get to them as soon as this airs. As a friendly reminder, Small Dollar Big Impact is a monthly grant that we award up to $1,000 to local nonprofits, municipalities, and similar. If you have a really cool, creative, innovative idea that can impact your community, and especially the 50 plus community, applications are due July 19th, and you can apply below or find additional information at aarp.org/WISDBI. And there are upcoming events. Nope. There are upcoming events. We just don't have a slide for it. So please visit the AARP Wisconsin website again for all upcoming in-person and virtual events. Please join us next Thursday, June 30th at noon. We will be having a special guest, and we will post more information about that guest within the next upcoming days. But we want to thank once again Beau for all his hard work and dedication and just celebration of Pride Month. Once again, it shouldn't just be 1 month, it should be every single day. So please make sure, as Beau said, to call a loved one, make sure that you just express your love and respect for them. We need to do more of that. So thank you again, and we appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday. Take